Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airline Pilot, and today we are going to have a look at the brand new JustFlight PIPER Tomahawk. Now the Tomahawk has just been released in April 2024 and it features the latest and greatest in general aviation technology from JustFlight. It continues the series of their previous Pipers, which were really among my favorites back in the day, so let's go right into it. Before we start though, I would like to thank JustFlight very much for providing my review copy of the Tomahawk for free. Now, in case you're wondering, we are currently standing at NZA Simulation's Milford Sound Airport, which is a really beautiful location down in New Zealand, and it's really worth checking out if you're interested in this style of flying. Alright then. Let's have a general look at our aircraft. The PIPER Tomahawk is a two-seater club and flight school aircraft, and it is not very fast, it doesn't fly very high, but it is really a joy to fly, and JustFlight did an awesome job of capturing the characteristics and the character of this airplane. Now, before we are going to have a closer look at the model, let's go ahead and hop inside and have a look at the virtual cockpit. Now, as you can see, it's a pretty simplistic setup that we've got available in our aircraft. We've got the standard flight instrument T, we do have a couple of radios and a couple of basic instrumentation. Now, it is a very simplistic aircraft, but it's great joy to fly just back to the basics. However, it's not as simple as it looks. JustFlight does deliver us a couple of options down here in the electronic flight bag, so let's go ahead and have a look at a couple of them. First of all, we can replace those GPS units, or rather those non-GPS units, with GPS units. So as you can see, we can fit a dual setup of the GNS units from working title, or we can go for a single GNS 530 setup. But we also have the option to include the TDS GTN XI in our aircraft. Now, for today's setup, let's go for either the standard units, for which I just want to show you a quick difference here. You've got the SL30 and the SL40 in here. The 30 features a couple of additional keys that come with some stuff for VOR navigation. And the 40 doesn't have that, as you can see down here. Now, for today's flight, we are going to include the GNS 530, but we're going to keep one of the SL units. We're going to keep the SL40 down here. That's the one that does not have the additional buttons down here, but that's the setup that we get. Now, we also have the ability to fit an additional nav receiver unit down here. So if we go for that, you can see we can fit this one down here. And we also have the ability to fit an ADF into the cockpit, which we are going to get right down here, and that also brings us an additional instrument on the left side of the panel over here. So that's like the different options we've got available in the Tomahawk. Now, since this is a rather simplistic aircraft, I really prefer to get rid of those though, and keep the cockpit pretty much as clean as it gets. So, pretty much like it is right over here. I do have to say I really like that. Okay, so apart from that, we also have some maintenance options over here, and if we just go right up here, you can see if there was anything broken in the airplane, we would get warnings down here, and we also have the ability to get a quick overlook of the condition of the airplane and change the rate at which our aircraft wears down. So we've got realistic that we are using right now, but we can also go to slow when it wears down at half speed, or we can go to fast where it wears down a little bit quicker. So that is like the options that we have available. Now we're going to go for realistic, but if you don't like that maintenance stuff, you can turn the failures and the wear and tear off right down here, but hey, we want to keep those things on, do we? Now down there you can also choose whether you want to have a visual model of the co-pilot installed or not, but that is only going to come once we are going to power the airplane up, so we'll have to wait a short moment to actually see that. Now, next up, before we are going to have a look at how to fly this airplane, let's quickly go for our standard procedures. We're going to start with the cockpit preparation, and then we'll do the walk around, for which we've got quite a cool feature here in our EFB. So, First things first though, we're going to start by turning on the power. We do get the alternator warning, and this thing should definitely be off for now. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Thank you, and we'll also keep the transponder off in order not to damage it during the engine start. Okay, so apart from that, our fuel has a full load, and if we do have a quick look into the weight and balance, then you can see that it's quite easy to actually overload the Tomahawk. Now, if we do a quick look here, we can see we've got 32 kilos of luggage inside, and this actually shows in our cargo compartment. So if we go ahead and reduce that a little bit so that we're actually legal for our flight, then you can see that this actually removes the visual modeling of any of the luggage that we had in the back there. Now I would say we're just going to take a little bit more here. Let's take like, I don't know, 5 kilos of luggage, just so that we have something inside, like that. And that just included our flight bag over here, as you can see. And we're going to keep the weight of P1 and P2. P1 left side, P2 right side, of course. And for the rest of it, we're just going to fill it up with fuel, so that we bring it all the way to the max takeoff weight, pretty much. Alright, so you can see it is a rather weight-critical airplane. If we had a little bit more... If we had a gourmet sitting on the left side, let's say 100 kilos, over here you can see how easily the airplane reaches maximum weight. So then, in order to get it down to max takeoff weight, you can see that you already have to significantly reduce the amount of fuel on board the airplane. Alright though, let's go back to something standard here, let's say 80 kilos on the left, 73 on the right. That does look good to me. And then we can just bring it back up to 100% fuel. Alright, so that much for this part of the setup. So the alternator warning light is working, the fuel gauges are looking good, and then we can just quickly test the fuel pump. We can see and hear it that it actually does work. Okay, perfect. So then, battery and alternator off again, and you can see that together with the battery switch, the 3D first officer, or passenger I should say, is either triggered or not. Now, then a quick look down here at the circuit breakers. Not all of them are modeled. The lower part is currently not. The upper part, however, is, as you can see. And those on the top over here are not. Okay, so that much about the equipment down there. Now, let's go out for the walkaround. And like that, we can just go ahead and go out. And now we can test our aircraft. So, we're going to start with the aileron. Looking good, the flaps, and the fuel quantity. Can see that we can either click that stuff on the left side, you can also just go for check all, of course. And on the right side, in the info box, you can then see the respective information, like your fuel quantities over here, for example. Or if we move a little bit further forward, you can see our airplane is still strapped down, and over here, quite important, you actually got to make sure to remove the pitot cover, otherwise your airspeed indicator is not going to work. So, even though it is a simplistic aircraft, we do have to say JustFlight did an awesome job modeling all of that. Okay, so, let's go ahead and start with the chocks. We're going to remove those. So, toggle chocks. So then, the left tire, and when we click on that, you can see it tells us our tire pressure and the condition of the tire over here. Pretty cool. And we also have the respective maintenance information over there. And the brake is in a good condition as well. So, stall warning, that would require electrical power. So, for that reason you didn't hear anything. So then we can remove our tie downs. Then we can go on to the fuel strain. As you can see, let's drain a little bit of fuel. And no water inside there, very good. So, pitot cover, again, that one is very important. You gotta remove that, otherwise you will not get a speed indication on takeoff. If that ever happens to you, the thing flies totally fine without a speed indicator, but, you know, we don't need to force it. Okay, and the gear strut is in a good condition, and I do just like how it shows us all of that over here as well. Okay, so, onto the front then. So, chocks are removed, nose tire is in a good condition, as we can see. Now let's go ahead and turn the propeller. Some lovely sound effects there as well, aren't they? Okay, so then fuel strain, let's go ahead and drain a little bit of fuel there. And finally the gear strut is in a good condition as well. Lovely, I didn't break it in my first couple of flights. But don't worry, that is definitely going to come. Okay, so I'm going to start with the right tire, which is in a good condition, so is the brake. Then engine. Now this one, quite interesting here again. You can see how we not only have the engine condition, but also the oil quantity. And that one is definitely something that you do want to have a look at. And finally, electrical battery voltage, spark plug condition, stuff like that is all simulated. I do really like that. Okay, so tie downs right here are removed. Fuel strain. Unfortunately, that effect is only acoustic, and we don't get to see the actual animation. That would be really nice if they could add that, but well. Okay, so, and the gear strut is in a good condition, as we can clearly see here as well. Alright, so onto the aft part of the wing then. We're going to check the aileron once again, make sure that there is nothing broken over there. And by the way, in case you're wondering, you can not only do these checks by clicking on the EFB, you can also do them by clicking on the respective part of the aircraft. So for example, up here for the fuel, you can see that you can move around like that. Okay, so then we're going to move to the aft part of the plane, and over here, elevator is checked. The rudder is checked, and the antennas are checked as well. Now do note over here again how all those antennas can actually break. So if you have all those maintenance features and failures enabled, it's a really good idea to check these things actually. Okay then, so from here we're basically done, so let's return into our cockpit like that. Okay, cool. So in order to finish the overview of the EFB over here, this is only the aircraft page. Now you can quickly put your chocks, your tie downs, your pitot covers, etc. in place, or remove them through the exterior menu up here. And then we also have an autopilot down here, but we're going to talk about that in a few moments. Now, apart from that, standard JustFlight EFB with all the stuff that you're known from them. Pretty useful, the aircraft checklists that we have available over here. So for example, we could use this in order to run our procedures, but there is actually something that's a little bit nicer than the lists that you got in the EFB, but they are very nice to have. Apart from that, we do have the ability to display Navigraph charts inside, and we can also import Simbrief flight plans over here. And we do have the standard map that we can see over here. Now, it would be nice if we actually had the chance to display the Navigraph en route map on this one. I'm definitely going to suggest that to JustFlight. But apart from that, we at least have some sort of en route map available. Okay, so then back to the aircraft menu, which is like the most important one for us in the flight. But also pretty nice is the notes, because over here we can actually draw and, you know, just write something up, stuff like that. Also, of course, through the keyboard. Okay, so that much for our EFB and the features we have available. The settings down here, in case you're wondering, is just EFB settings, nothing relating to the aircraft. That's all found in the aircraft menu. Okay, so pretty much of a long look at our aircraft. Let's go ahead and actually get it flying now. So our FO is here. Let's go ahead and close this down. And don't forget that you also have the lock on the top that you got to put in place. Only now the airplane is actually locked down. Okay, so as I mentioned, you could either get your checklist from here, from the EFB, or you can use your little kneeboard checklist down here. This is a really useful thing that we have down here. Let's just go back to the first page. So as you can see, you've got the most important Tomahawk documents available right over here in the cockpit. So you You can click yourself through this. It starts with the detailed pre-flight procedures, and then you also got all your normal checklists and all the normal procedures for the airplane available right down here. Now, when you're done with the normals, you also got the performance charts available, things like climb performance, things like fuel distance tables, etc. Now, that's pretty much what you have available right over here. So lots of useful things that we do have available in here, and what's pretty cool as well, once you're done with this, you can actually import your own custom files down here. The manual explains you exactly how to do this. Basically, you just place them right over here, and then you update the ini file, and then you have to reload your flight in order to get them to show in your cockpit. So pretty useful stuff that is available right down here within the virtual cockpit. Now, let's go ahead and stow that stuff away. Our engine has been running already today. I did just do a little flight and park it here before we loaded up the flight. So we do have a warm engine already, and that means I am going to cut a couple of the procedures short. But hey, let's go right for it. Okay, so fuel can come on, the mixture can come rich. So, tiny bit of throttle, fuel pump on, anti-collision light on to warn everybody around us. Okay, and our airplane is actually completely clear of everything. So let's go ahead and power it up. Okay, so engine is running, RPMs between 800 and 1200 is looking good. And looking over here, we do have fuel pressure, we do have oil pressure, and the oil already has a little bit of temperature there, which is all expected. Okay, awesome. So then, suction is in the region of about 5. If we do increase power later on the run-up, then it should go exactly to 5. So that is looking okay. Then let's go ahead and turn on our radios. And here they come. So, I do want emergency frequency 1 to 1.5 down here on COM2. Here we are, 1 to 1.5. Now, the 530 is still starting up. Squawk 7000 is okay. Our registration is okay. And that's all looking good. Okay, so the 530 is the standard working title GNS 530. Beautiful unit. I really don't think we need any addition to that. Okay, so 22.8 is coming in. Also, I'm going to just put a random VOR active over here. And we are listening to COM 1 and 2, transmitting on COM 1. Perfect. Okay. So, that is pretty much fine. Our altimeter, we are located on sea level, so don't have any QNH here. Let's just go ahead and set it to 0. That should be good. Apart from that, our compass, remember you need to manually set this. So right now it's indicating about a 100 heading, and looking at the whiskey compass, that is okay. Alright, perfect. So with that, we are good to go. Now, something that's really worth keeping in mind in the Tomahawk is you must not move the rudder or the rudder pedals when the airplane is stationary. The reason for that is that the steering mechanism on the nose wheel might break. And guess what? JustFlight did simulate that stuff. So we actually have to be a little bit careful there in order not to break our airplane. So only use your pedal steering when the airplane is moving. Don't use it when the plane is stationary. Okay then, so park and brake off. Let's give it a go. A little bit more power. And here we go. Brake check. Looking good. Okay then. Okay, so clear on the right, clear on the left. Let's line up and backtrack. Something I really want to point out with this airplane is the completely beautiful animations of the entire aircraft moving. Like, you can see it going a little bit up and down here during taxi. You can really see the airplane shaking as we are going to do the run-up and stuff like that. And JustFlight have just done an awesome job capturing all of that. We are not using FS Realistic on this one. This is all included with the basic aircraft itself. And that is really, really cool. Okay then. Let's turn it around. This is maximum nose wheel steering now, so you can see it's really responsive, acts really nicely. Really good ground model. I do really like how the airplane's taxiing. Okay, so park and brake is set. Let's go ahead and do our run-up. So we have got maximum mixture, fuel pump is on anyway, then up to 1800 RPMs. Now see how the plane is vibrating there? On a rather subtle level, but it is moving, you can see that. Do really like it. Also look over here, how the entire airplane is shaking as we are running the engine up. That's a really nice animation there, and as I mentioned, this is completely built into the aircraft. This is not FS Realistic. Also notice how the altimeter has dropped a little bit because air is now flowing over the static port and therefore creating a little bit of a suction right on the outside of the port, and that leads to the altimeter dropping down a little bit. Okay then, so let's go ahead and carry out the magneto check. So right magneto, we're looking for no more than 175 RPM drop. Looking good. Back to both. 1800. Now the left magneto. Difference of no more than 50 between the two. And that is looking good. Alright, next up, carburetor heat. Open it up. That warms up the air inside the manifold. That leads it to lose power. And here we go. Okay. That is looking good. Now let's bring it down to idle. Verify that the thing keeps running. And now just make sure that we don't kill the engine by going onto either magneto. Alright, looking good. Excellent. So back to between 800 and 1200 RPMs. Okay, that is looking good. Then next up we do the flight control track. Remember, don't do the rudder over here because the rudder might break the nose wheel steering. Okay, flight controls are looking good. Next up we do the flaps. The flap lever is located right down here. And it is a direct mechanical connection, so you can see how the flaps are moving immediately as we move the lever. So we can take off with the flaps in the up position. We only have to use them for a short field takeoff. Apart from that, maximum mixture, fuel is on the fullest tank there, pretty much likewise. Fuel pressure is looking good, oil temperature and oil pressure are looking good. The oil pressure is going to rise a little bit as we add a bit of power, and the amperage is positive. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, landing lights coming on, pitot heat coming on, and with that we are good to go. Now, a small word here for a takeoff. We rotated 53 knots. That's really not a lot. But if we look outside, that's still quite a bit much in order to do an immediate right turn. So what we're going to do, we'll climb straight ahead into the valley, and then we make a turn over here in order to fly out of the valley. Okay, so looks all good to me. Then let's go ahead and release that park and brake. The flaps are down and the trim is neutral. Perfect. Okay, good to go. Takeoff. Release those brakes. Power set. .53, rotate. Okay then, and we will slowly let it accelerate. At 70 knots we are doing the best rated climb. Now look at that beautiful environment down here. Isn't that fantastic? Such an awesome scenery. Okay then, slight left-hand turn. Speed is coming, that's looking good. Okay, 70 knots. That might have been a little bit excessive there. Okay, trimming it out. Looking good. 400 above the ground. Landing light off, fuel pumps off. Okay, so little left turn over. By the way, I really like how they did those 3D models of all those mountains over here. That just really gives the scenery a lot of character, which the standard Microsoft Flight Simulator model just can't do. I really like that. Okay then, and we can start a right-hand turn. So, maintaining those 70 knots, and you can see at that speed it's pretty easy to make a turn inside the valley, but then again we just have to keep an eye on the airplane here. Okay, that is looking awesome. Alright then, let's maintain 1000, and we're going to do a couple of patterns over here. Okay, so power down to something about 1800, I believe. For the pattern, maintain 1000. Alright, that is looking good. So it's not your standard everyday traffic pattern that you're flying over here, but it's not meant to be either. That's part of the fun, isn't it? Look at that valley. I really like it. Okay, a little bit more power. Let's make 2000 RPMs. Looking good. Okay, so as you can see, flies really nicely once it's completely trimmed out, but it does have a little bit of rolling tendency depending on the distribution of the weight and depending on your power setting. And JustFlight captured that really nicely. Like you can see now, it does have a little bit of that tendency. Beautiful scenery down here, and beautiful looking aircraft as well, isn't it? Okay then, let's go back inside. Let's not go into the mountains. Hashtag German first officer. Okay, we'll go out onto the sea a little bit, then we'll make a 180 turn and come back for our landing. In the meantime, you can see the plane flies beautifully. It's not that fast as you can see. We can cruise at 100 if we want to, but we don't really want to cruise just yet. And just look at that scenery. Isn't that completely beautiful here? I really think it is. I do really like that, I have to say. Okay then. Also, all those animations with the boats and everything, just beautiful. Okay, so let's make a little bit of a left-hand turn here, in order to line ourselves up with the runway for our touch and go. And after the touch and go, we are going to leave the sound, and we will do a little bit of en route flight and a little bit of air work in order to see how the airplane actually performs. Look at that waterfall down there. There's another one over here. Just lovely, isn't it? Okay, so we are below 86 knots, I believe is the limit, so flaps 21. Landing light, fuel pump, mixture rich, Fuel is pretty much on the fullest tank. And look at that, my nose comes down, I go right to the maximum flap speed. Okay, so a runway is located in the back over there. I just really love what NZA Simulations did with this scenery. It's so beautiful. Okay, let's pull off a bit of power. Just look at that. Also worth pointing out how nicely the Piper flies over here. No control input. Once it's trimmed out, it's beautiful. Very stable aircraft. Very good for beginners. Okay, so down there is our runway. Looking at 67 knots for the approach. Okay, flaps 40. That does give us quite a bit of drag, as we can see. Okay, speed is good. And here we come. Okay, idle power. Can immediately feel how the plane wants to go down. And we're down. Okay, let's do the flaps 21 takeoff now. We'll keep the flaps in the first notch. Set power. Power set. So, 62 for the best angle of climb, but do remember that it's for the flaps up, so once we are at a safe altitude here of 400 feet, we can retract them, and then I'm going to show you at what kind of a slow speed this aircraft can actually climb. Okay, so reaching 400, fuel pump off, landing lights off, and speed is looking good, flaps up. You do get that immediate nose up, which you do have to counter. Very nice aerodynamic effect of the flaps there. Okay, and then we can make our turn in order to get out of the sound. Okay, careful with the speed now, let's not make it drop too much. Looking good. Ooh, that was a bit hard on the rudder on my side. Right then, let's go to 70 for the en route climb, and then we'll climb it all the way up to like 2,500 or something, in order to get ourselves nicely out of the sound. Another waterfall over there, one over here. Really nicely done, isn't it? Ooh, that's a bird over there. Not sure if you can see it, but I can. Okay, so airplane is trimmed out, airplane is flying nicely. We did use a little bit of fuel from the left tank, let's switch it over to the right. Fuel pump on, right tank. Let's keep the pump running for a little bit. Okay, fuel pump off. So this is about the performance that you can expect from the Tomahawk. As you can see, it doesn't quite live up to the performance of the cruise missile Tomahawk, but it does fly pretty nicely. So we'll bring it up to 2,500 and then we'll have a look at a couple of the features and the aerodynamic characteristics of the aircraft over here while we're heading out of Milford Sound. Just a matter of another minute until we reach 2.5. Again, beautiful scenery. I'm really enjoying this. So in case some of you have been wondering, read that little sticker over there. Tacho underreads by 100 RPMs at maximum. That's the reason why we only get 2,400 showing over here, while 2,500 is actually the maximum. Don't be surprised about that. It is what it is. Okay, so time to level off. Here we go, 2,500. Now, normal cruising power is below 75%, or at 75. We do have the cruise performance chart available in the manual down here, but there is a little sticker right here in the cockpit, right on top there, which gives us the most important power setting. So at 3,000, 75%, we're looking for 2,440 RPMs. Or we just bring it down to a 65% power. In that case, 65, 2,335 RPMs. Now, remember, the RPM indicator overreads a little bit, so if we say we want 65%, we're looking at 2,335, so let's go a little bit below that, like 2,250 or something the likes. Okay, speed is right up, so let's go ahead and reduce power. Note how the airplane immediately starts to pitch. Okay, power set to 250. Well, let's go right down to 2,500 again. And here we go. So the speed is going to go somewhere 95 knots, around that. Can do a little bit above 100 if you go for 75% power. But like that, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so a little bit less mixture over here. Like so. Ew, let's not pitch it down too much. Okay, something like this is looking good if you ask me. So, the Tomahawk is by default not equipped with an autopilot, but we do have that little shortcut for an autopilot down here in the electronic flight bag. So if we really want to, we can shortcut ourselves into using an autopilot right over here. But before we do that, let's just have a look at one other feature that makes hand flying the Tomahawk a little bit easier, and that is right over here in the transponder. You can see if we go over to function and then we go for altitude monitor. Now we press the cursor, or now we press the start button actually. It memorizes the altitude that we had, and now you can see that right below here you get that 0 feet above or below, or if we now climb or descend, then the transponder is going to alert us to the fact that we are no longer maintaining our altitude. And that gives you a little bit of a reminder there for a bit more of accurate flying here in the Tomahawk. Now, it does fly beautifully manually, as you can see. We don't need to do a lot of inputs really, but nonetheless, it is always good to have that little bit of additional safety available to us. So we're going to make a slight right-hand turn over here. We're going to follow the coastline. which by the way is looking really superb over here. Going to follow this on our way out. Like so. Okay, so from time to time you gotta cross-check that your directional gyro is still showing correct, because that thing does drift. So we're looking at a 331 heading now, compared with the Whiskey Compass, that is about okay. Okay, so I mentioned that despite the lack of an autopilot in here, we do have one available in the EFB. So if we go autopilot master here, altitude hold, heading hold, you can see like that we now have an artificial autopilot here that is capable of flying the airplane while we are doing things like looking around in the cockpit, maybe grabbing our cruise performance charts. Now, talking about cruise performance, let's have a look at that. That's engine performance and RPMs, 65% power, 2,500 feet. Looking at actually a little bit more here, like 2,300 and a bit RPMs. Let's see, 3,000, you go over here, yeah. 2,360, that is what we... Oh, that's actually a little bit less. So, as you can see, this seems to be corrected for the under-reading RPM indicator. That's quite cool. I didn't know that. I just figured that out. Okay, well, so we could go ahead and compare all our performance figures here now. Let's actually just do that real quick. So, if we have a look at that, we're looking at a temperature outside that is located right up here. We have plus 20 degrees centigrade right now. So we're looking at 20, we go up over here until we end up about here, 2,500, 20 degrees. Over to the right, 65% power, here we are. And that gives us a true airspeed when we go down over here of about 90, a little bit less than 95 knots true airspeed that we should get over here. Okay, so knowing that, let's now go ahead and dial that in on our altimeter. So we're looking at temperature of plus 20 at 2,500 feet, so something like this roughly. And indeed, we're getting just above 95 knots. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay then, let's go ahead and do a little bit of manual flying again. Bring it right back over here. Now, the Tomahawk can be certified in two different categories. You have the normal category, and then you have the utility category. In the normal category, you cannot do any aerobatic maneuvers or anything with it. If it's certified to the utility category, then look at that. You can do a little bit of maneuvers here, like spins, steep turns, lazy eights, and chandelles. Now, I don't even want to do too much with it, but let's just have a look at a little bit of basic maneuvering that we can do with the airplane. So we're going to start with steep turns at, well, initially 30 degrees bank, and then we're going to do 45 and eventually 60 degrees of bank. So let's go for that. I'm going to start with a 30 degree left-hand turn while maintaining altitude. That's pretty much a standard maneuver that pilots would do in order to familiarize themselves with a new aircraft when they're flying it for the first time. So, pretty much standard. I do need a very tiny bit of right-hand aileron in order to maintain the aircraft in the turn, as I'm using a bit of left rudder to center the ball indicator right down here. But okay, this is looking pretty nice. Let's do the same into the other side now, in order to familiarize ourselves with the way how the airplane reacts, with the amount of rudder needed in order to put it into a turn or get it out of it, and of course to familiarize ourselves with the control column forces that we need in order to maintain our altitude as we're banking. That is a rather important feeling that pilots need to get whenever they fly a new aircraft, so that when you're in a traffic pattern, for example, it becomes easier for you to keep controlling the aircraft and to do coordinated control inputs. Okay, so that was 30 degrees angle of bank, easy going as we could see. So let's now do the same at 60 degrees angle of bank. For that we will need a little bit of extra power as we go past 30. Let's bring that in. Okay, 60 degrees bank. Does take a little bit of a pull up here to maintain altitude. Okay, and the same to the other side. A little bit more power even. Lovely turning radius, isn't it? Feels a bit like a fighter. Okay. I did accept a little bit of an altitude loss here because it felt like we were slowly approaching stall speed. So for that reason I didn't want to pull too strong. As you can see, I'm at full power right now, and the speed really went down into the direction of the minimum. Okay, so back in 2,500. Now let's do the next one, and that is a little bit of a stall exercise. So we're at 80 knots right now. Let's go ahead and pull off the power, pitch it up a little bit. Okay, nose coming down, add in some power. Nice. Okay, let's do the same thing with the flaps out now. Okay, so we are below 86, flaps 21 and flaps 40. Idle power. Look at how quickly we are losing speed. Okay, looking good. So, flaps back up. Let's do a little bit of a slow flight thing now. Back to 2,500, and now let's bring it just down to 50 knots. That's just about the minimum you should be able to maintain over here with the flaps up. So, as you can see, here we are. Power. Now look at that. It flies at 50 knots. Isn't that cool? Look at it from the outside. You can really see the pitch here. It doesn't look too much pitch, but believe me, for a plane that doesn't have too much power, that is really an impressive maneuver there. Okay, next up, we're going to have a look at the characteristics of the airplane entering a spin. The Tomahawk is really known for its lovely spin capability, so that is what we're going to try now. We'll let the speed slowly drop. By the way, look at that, flying at 44 knots. Okay, now pull it up, a little bit of left rudder, and down it goes. Controls neutral, recover. Reaching just about maximum there. That was lovely. Okay, now let's do that one more time. This time we'll take it into a real spin. Okay. Here we go. Okay, in order to recover, right hand rudder, push it down a bit, and here we go. Lost quite a bit of altitude there. See that? So it's beautiful spin characteristics. This was also a really nice demonstration on how easy it is to lose your spatial awareness when you're doing this over water. At times it was really hard to figure out how exactly our position in space was, wasn't it? Especially when you got an ADI that is not that detailed, to call it like that. Alright, so, as you could see, that was really interesting, let's call it that way. It does have some very good spinning characteristics, and it certainly can well be used in order to demonstrate what a spin looks like to flight students. Okay, so let's go ahead and gain some altitude again. I might just give it full mixture as well. Should probably have done that a bit earlier, but as you can see, the plane can take a bit of a beating there. Okay, so overall, as you can see, some beautiful flight dynamics there and some beautiful flight characteristics of the Tomahawk. It's a really nice one to fly. Okay, so we'll just about keep the altitude. Let it accelerate again. No need to climb too high, as we are now, next up, going to land it over at our destination, which is located just about in the bay over there. And the Milford Sound airport package not only includes Milford Sound Airport, but also quite a couple of airports and terrain in the more immediate vicinity around. And we are going to have a look at one of them now. Okay, so setting cruise power again to 250 roughly. A little bit of leaning here. And there we go. Okay, so we are meant to switch around the fuel every 15 minutes roughly. Now, since I did use quite a bit of power on the last maneuvers, I'm just changing it over right now. Here we go. Keeping your fuel levels balanced is a rather important thing in the Tomahawk, because you can really see and feel the airplane starting to bank left and right, depending on the amount of fuel that you're using from each tank. So that is quite an important thing there, that we do keep good control of the fuel and make sure that it stays more or less balanced. It's a beautiful plane, isn't it? It just looks so basic, if you know what I mean. And I really like that. It's really going back to the very basics of flying. Not like these guys up there. As you can see, pretty stable as well. This is all without any control inputs, no autopilot. It does generate a little bit of left bank there. But apart from that, it really feels nice. It really feels nice. So, that much about the flight dynamics. You can see, with a little bit of a control input, once it's trimmed out, it does fly really nicely. Alright then, so let's reduce power a little bit and we're going to start our descent here. Remember, no pressure cabin, so 500 feet a minute should be maximum. Other than that, it can really start to go on your ears. So what are we looking at? This one over there, NZMJ, that's where we're gonna land. It's got two runways. We are going to pick the one that goes across that little river down there, because that is a really beautiful approach. Okay, so mixture maximum, fuel is selected to the highest tank, pumps on, landing lights on. And we are going to turn on a little bit of carburetor heat here as well. Notice how we lose a couple RPMs there as we prepare the carb heat. Okay, so seeing that this is a completely uncontrolled airport, we are going to make a quick flyover to make sure that there are no obstacles or anything on the runway. Okay, cockpit is looking good. We can switch that right back off. Maintaining 1,000 now. So, 2 runways. One is right over there, and the other is right over here. This is the one that we are going to be landing on. As you can see, it's completely clear. No obstacles, no nothing. Beautiful. Okay then, so right hand turn into the downwind, so that we can fly a right pattern and don't have to worry about the hills over here. And this is the other runway, leading right to a couple of buildings at the end of it. That's beautiful, isn't it? Okay then, here's our runway. Let's give it a go. 800 feet pattern altitude should be good. We're looking at roughly 1800 RPMs. Here we go. Looking good to me. Over the water it's always hard to judge your actual altitude and your maneuvering, so we need to rely a little bit more on our instruments here. Okay, so flaps 21. Now we should be getting about 70 knots of speed. Let's increase power so that we do actually get them. And trim the plane out to maintain those. Here we go. Free of the controls, everything's trimmed out, looking good. Okay then, starting the base turn. This is our runway over there. Can we see anything? Yeah, there it is. Okay then, flaps 40. Alright, and here we are. So, reducing power. I'm keeping rather high because of all those trees down there, and it does have a superb stopping performance, so we don't need to worry about that. So taking back the speed, power idle. And here we are. So now the important question is, can we actually taxi over to the other buildings and the other runway that we had I think there is actually a fence over there, but let's actually give that a try. I want to explore the scenery because this is really, really beautiful one. Just look at how the airplane is moving as we are trying to taxi over here. Just gotta make sure not to clip our wing. Nope, this is the end. Okay. Well then, we turn around. Look at how you can just about turn it right on the spot. This is really beautiful, beautiful ground behavior here. Okay then, so let's take the power back a little bit after landing procedures. Flaps going up. Fuel pump off, landing light off, and the pitot heater off. Transponder is on ground. Okay then, we'll park next to the Piper, to the cup up there. Okay, a little bit of power in order to climb this mountain over here. And here we are. So, we'll leave it right over here. Okay then, so power back down to about 1,000. Parking brake set, we don't need those charts here anymore. Okay, so avionics going off. So then, let's see, everything is done, that's looking good. So then, power, or rather mixture, cut off. Prop is stopped, anti-collision light off, throttle's idle, fuel. Now, quick thing here, note that you can't move it to off when you've got the safeguard in place. So turn that off, and now we can actually turn the fuel off, and the batteries off as well. Beautiful, and that's it. Our first flight in the Piper Tomahawk. Beautiful little airplane, isn't it? I do have to say, I really like the flight dynamics. I like how easy it is to fly it, and how much fun it is going back to that, you know, original way of flying here that you can experience in this plane. Really beautiful. Okay, so chocks going in place. Not that we would really need them on this grass over here. I have a feeling by the time we're back, the plane is just going to be completely sunken into it anyway, but nonetheless. Here we have it, my friend. The Tomahawk. I really like this airplane. It just feels beautiful flying it. It's just going back to basics. It's not overpowered like many flight simulator developers have a tendency to choose very high-powered aircraft. Like, just think of the Black Square aircraft. They're all pretty much high-performance aircraft. Except for the 208 maybe, but even that thing has a turbine fitted to it. And it's just something very nice and different to have the Tomahawk as one of those slow-flying, low-flying general aviation aircraft. The plane has a lot of character to it, and I really do like it for exactly that. Now, again, for the scenery as well, I didn't get a free copy of that. I actually had to buy it, but I can really only advertise that one as well. NZA simulations, Milford Sound, beautiful, really beautiful. Alright guys, that's going to be it then. I do hope that you liked this one. If you did, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Leave a like and a comment, as it does really help out the channel. If you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe. And with all of that, if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again on the next one.